Hello. Okay, everybody. We have Jamie with us today. And if you guys don't know her, she's that girl Jamie on Instagram, and I'll let her shout out all of her stuff. But Jamie she's a coach and she's a tarot reader. And, I just wanted to bring her on the show. And the topic today is self-sabotage. I think it's something that we've all experienced. We continue to experience. As most of you guys know, if you're following my Jupiter Journeys page on Instagram, like, you know that I'm 50, I'm about to turn 51. This is a lifelong journey and we never stop learning. So even myself, I find myself creating unnecessary blocks and sabotaging myself before things get started. So I wanted to bring Jamie on to talk about her own spiritual path and self-sabotaging and how that shows up in people's lives. So hopefully you guys can get a lot of good takeaways. So Jamie, thank you for joining us. I appreciate it.
Yeah,
And
thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And I wanted to get some background because like we were just chatting before we started just about our spiritual journeys and like how a lot of us are starting to look for the bigger picture, choose a different path. We're seeking more. So
Mhm.
if you don't mind sharing real quick, Jamie, like what kind of got you into offering tarot as a service, coaching as a service, those kind of stuff. I'd love to hear more.
Um, Mine started about 5 years ago. Like I said, like we were chatting, it was kind of around the same time. I think everybody, a lot of us were starting to kind of wake up and realize that maybe things weren't always what they seemed to be, or that there was just a lot of, for me personally, I was desperate to try and control a lot of things that were ultimately out of my control.
Sure.
I was a brand new mother in a very unhealthy relationship, codependent relationship. COVID hit, so I found myself homeschooling a child that I am not a teacher. That's not, no.
Yeah. I can't even imagine
um,
what it was like for the kindergarten teachers trying to teach over Zoom, but yeah, go on.
exactly. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? And so I was consistently frustrated and stressed and hyper vigilant on a daily basis. And being a brand new mother, I was adding a whole nother layer of responsibility on top of everything else. And so something happened, and I found myself in a place where I didn't recognize who I recognized the person I had become because it was something I had experienced as a child, that kind of emotionally unpredicted, um, I don't want to say volatile, but just that very unpredictable emotional parent,
Sure.
right? That very like controlling parent. But I had found myself in that same position, and I was like, I don't want to do that. And for me, it was kind of this snowball effect
Sure.
of just opening this door to an immense amount of self-awareness and pattern recognition
Nice.
that occurred throughout my childhood. And it's
Mhm.
like at the same time all of this was coming up, it also created this opening of freedom and some surrender. I don't always do well with surrender, but some surrender, but this great amount of freedom and this great amount of even compassion and acceptance.
Sure.
And that eventually I started doing meditation. I came across law of attraction and then
Nice.
manifestation and, you
Nice.
know, imagining who did I want to be in 2 years? Who did I want to be in 3 years, in
Nice.
5 years, and 10 years? Where did I want to
Nice.
go? What do I want to do? Who do I want to be? Not,
Love it.
and who do I want to be without the influence of other people?
Love that. Love it. Yes.
And it just kind of evolved into, and kind of like I said, is snowballed into, why aren't more people doing this?
Hmm.
This is how we change the world.
Yes. By
This is
changing
how we
ourselves.
change.
Yep.
Yeah, and this is how we change the collective. It starts with one person at a time,
Hmm.
and I looked at it like it's kind of like a cold eventually. Like one person feels it, and then it hits two, three other people, and then each one of them hits two or three other people, and it just continues to spread, right? But it's like if we do that with light, if we do that with awareness and
Hmm.
joy and happiness and acceptance, this is ultimately how we change the world. And that kind of put me in the more spiritual space
Sure.
online. And then I came across my mentor, who was a tarot reader.
Love it.
And I was just enamored with the fact that like these little pieces of paper could reveal so much about a person
Right. You're
without
talking.
ever having to say
Mhm.
anything. And then that evolved into I just I wanted to coach. I enjoy telling people what they need to do. So
I love.
why just not embrace this side of myself and just kind of do it in a very like try to positive life-changing way for others, you know?
And if you don't mind me sharing, Jamie, for those of you who do speak astrology, Jamie is a Libra sun. She's an Aries moon and a Scorpio rising. So
Mm-hmm.
we won't go into all the astrology. I know not everybody speaks astrology, but if you do, you will understand. A lot of us who are Scorpio rising found our path in the last 5 to 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
And just people in general, though. And I'm sure you got, into Abraham Hicks if you're into law of attraction. And I
Mm-hmm.
love what Abraham said about, one person in alignment is more powerful than a million who aren't, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because we're not here to be everything for everyone. But like I often talk about is be the person you needed when you were first starting out. My spiritual awakening was like 2014. And so when I was seeking, I didn't have mentors in my life. So again, I'm going to YouTube, I'm going to the library, I'm reading books.
Yeah.
So I'm seeking because I did not have people around me that were at that level of self-awareness. So I was seeking knowledge and information wherever I could get it. And I was obsessed for like years, right? Later,
Mm-hmm.
several years later when was ready to go to the next level, then I, added in astrology, got a mentor and all of those things. But in the beginning, when I was first seeking and learning, I just can't say enough for all of the mentors, especially all the people that have already they're already on the other side. A lot of the people that I read, they're people that aren't here anymore. And so I'm finding their books, I'm finding their materials. And so
Yeah.
again, for the seekers and the creatives, we talk a lot about that. But you have to be open, like you said, and just I feel like one of our greatest gifts is just our own curiosity, is exploring that path and realizing what you see, that the eat, sleep, work, play cycle, there's more to life. And
Yes.
you can zoom out and have a bigger picture for yourself. And as you know, we talk about, being intentional about building your life is being intentional about how do you want to feel? And we, most of us who grew up with parents who were not emotionally mature and or they just didn't have emotional literacy. They didn't
Yeah.
have the language to describe. And me and one of my best friends is a therapist, and she and I talk about how even as children, we didn't have the language to describe boundaries. We
Yeah.
didn't have the language to describe how to ask for space in our relationship. There's just so many of those things. So I love that tarot is your path. And I just want to be clear to everybody who's watching or listening that there's so many different paths. Tarot is just one path. Astrology is just
Mm-hmm.
one path. Whatever tool works for you is the one that's right for you. And I'm not an either or, I'm an and both. It could be a couple of
Mm-hmm.
things. It could be, there might be a variety of things. Just follow your inner voice, follow whatever you're drawn to. But with that being said, as you're working with clients, you're working with tarot, and we talk about self-sabotage. What kind of patterns are you seeing? Especially, because a lot of people are self-sabotaging. They're on a loop of self-sabotage. And that's why they come to a coach or a reader, an intuitive, an astrologer. They're coming to break a cycle.
Mm-hmm.
So, what are you seeing in your practice, like signs of self-sabotage and some real life things that people can do, like real takeaways that they can do now?
I think the biggest sign for self-sabotage is that you find yourself in the same situation over and over and over.
Hmm.
It may not be cookie cutter, the
Sure.
exact same situation,
Sure.
but you find yourself in, say, me, for example, I'll just use my experience as an example. When I was going through that very challenging relationship, I was like, why do I always find myself with partners who fall into specific categories,
Sure.
who, have very similar traits, very similar personality types? Why do I do? I was like, and I asked the question, I was like, what is the common denominator?
Nice.
And I was like, it was just this very quiet voice that was like, you.
And you're
And
like,
I was
oh,
like,
wait a minute, it's me. I'm the problem.
I'm the
I'm the
problem.
problem. Yeah.
I'm the problem. And it wasn't when I admitted that I don't want people to think that I was now all of a sudden taking on accountability for all of their issues or the problems that they contributed to. That
Hmm.
wasn't it at all. It was the fact that I am specifically choosing these type of partners,
And to stay,
right?
and to stay, because again, it's not what you attract, it's what you entertain, right? So
Yes.
again,
Yeah.
like we say, and we are trying to teach younger women too, you leave at those first red flags. You don't try and stick it out for years thinking some people are going to suddenly become emotionally mature in 5 or 10 years. Unless they are actively doing the inner work or they're in therapy or whatever, let's be honest, most people aren't. So
Hmm.
they're not going to suddenly become emotionally mature. They don't just have a light bulb moment. So what are you sticking around for? Like if you're not being fulfilled, and I'm super loud about it on social media. Like if it's not fun or romantic, and if you're not getting emotionally fulfilled, what are you doing? What are you
Yeah.
doing? Like we have enough friends. Like so, if you're not getting your needs met, what are you doing? Yeah,
And that was a thing. One that was like a big, like I said, indicator for me was I kept finding myself in this pattern. And I
sure,
see it also with clients. Typically, things like procrastination,
sure,
things like self-sabotage, like all of these. And procrastination is a form of self-sabotage, like fear of success,
sure,
focusing on perfectionism, waiting for the right moment. Like the right
sure.
moment's never going to come. Take that from a Libra sun and a like Virgo midheaven.
Yeah,
You will always find a reason
yep,
to not do the thing.
yeah,
And procrastination is typically tied to fear.
of course.
And I'm a big believer that a lot of our choices, so like for me, self sabotage in itself are thoughts or emotions that contribute to us making choices that are not in the best interest of ourselves. So these thoughts or these emotions are typically going to fall into one of two categories. That's either fear
Hmm.
or desire.
Sure. Yeah, I like
You
it.
know what I mean?
Hmm.
And so becoming aware of those patterns, of those desires, of those fears is the first step to breaking that cycle of self-sabotage,
Love it.
right? Where you recognize, oh, right now, and you'll hear it a lot, recognize your triggers. What are your triggers?
Hmm.
Right? So when we look and we begin to become self-aware of our triggers, that's step number one. Step number two is learning what to do with that in the moment. Right. And so I think that's something I see a lot of clients struggle with patterns of self sabotage that come from emotional barriers.
Okay. And what kind of recommendations do you make for them to overcome those barriers? What kind of practices? What kind of new habits?
I think it really depends on the individual, but
Sure.
I think a lot of is the first thing that's coming to mind is acceptance.
I like it.
You know
Hmm.
what I mean? Like you
Yeah.
have to accept, whether that's in a relationship,
Hmm.
you have to accept that maybe this person is not right for you.
Sure.
And that's hard.
Yep.
That is hard. So, in that realm of acceptance, now you have to, and even like acceptance is not a black and white thing. There's a lot of nuance that goes into that acceptance. Okay, well, why am I struggling to accept that? What am I afraid of?
Yeah.
Or what do I desire
Yeah.
from this?
I love that.
I'm not, in some way, we don't get our needs met, our wants met, our desires met. So we end up with this emotional block of kind of like what you said. Oh, no, I'm just going to give them time.
Hmm.
Well, how much time?
Because it doesn't change their emotional literacy. Again, if
It,
they're not communicating with
mhm.
you, and or like, if we're not effectively communicating our needs, you can't, you like, my needs aren't being met, but what are your needs? If you can't communicate those yourself, then you're just saying I'm dissatisfied. Well, why?
Mhm.
So if you don't have the language to describe how you're feeling, what your needs are, so it again, like you said, it's emotional blockage. It can be on both sides. And sometimes
Exactly.
somebody who's not a bad person, you're just not aligned, right?
Exactly.
They're just not the person for me. They're not a bad
Mhm.
person. We just don't connect like that. We don't communicate well, or I'm not getting my needs met, or, this is not what I thought it was going to be. So it's okay to walk away. But I would say the same for work and jobs and things like that. We all start a new job, we're excited, we meet the team, everything's going great. And then there can be a culture there. There can be a company, there can be one boss who's a tyrant and awful. And so you think you're going to stick it out and make it better. And it doesn't get better, it only gets worse. And I always say that one of those litmus tests is, would you recommend your best friend to work where you're working?
Yeah.
Right? Just like
Hmm.
they say with dating and relationships, like, would I want this partner for my best friend? Because a lot of times we will want better for others that we love rather than ourselves. So like, would you want your best friend to work this job, and are they treated well? Or would you want your best friend dealing with this family dynamic and this toxic family environment? No, you wouldn't want that for them. So treat yourself like your own best friend, relationships, all of that kind of stuff. And what would you want for them? Or I don't know if you've been seeing all this stuff on social media this week, but I love the viral reel that says, if you were watching a movie of your life right now, what would you be yelling at the screen for the character to do? Isn't that
Ooh,
good? What
I'm gonna
would you
have to
be
ponder on
telling?
that.
Yeah,
What
go
would I?
ahead, steal
What
it, use
would
it.
I be?
Exactly. If you were watching the movie, you're the main character, what would you be telling that character to do? And that's what you should be doing. Because again,
Mm,
that's just a part of being your own biggest cheerleader. So
yeah.
I love that part. And I love that, it's not always, again, I think too, not all procrastination is about, fear. I
Hmm.
also believe sometimes you just have to sit with an idea or a concept or whatever it is that you're trying to manifest. Like, and this goes back to I love your two things, fear and desire. This is about desire and deciding and taking the time. Like, if you
Yeah.
don't have the answer and you don't know, just chill. Like, it's going to come, but you got to let it flow. And you can, again, if you're a spirit, you can pray, you can meditate, you can read cards, you can look at your chart. There's a variety of things you can do. You can talk it out with a friend. But that sifting and sorting, that contrast that you need to say, I want this or I don't want this, that contrast is necessary to sort out your actual desire. And it doesn't mean it's all going to show up all at once. It's not always a light bulb. Aha. Sometimes things,
Yeah.
as you start taking steps, they start unfolding and the path starts unfolding, but you don't wait to take action. It's just,
Yeah.
again, you're getting clear on your desire. So I love that you said that. I love it.
Hmm.
All right. So we talked a lot about emotional language, creating emotional blocks. As a tarot reader yourself, how does this show up in the cards or in your readings with people? Are you able to, are you picking it up intuitively? Are you picking it up through the cards when you can see somebody self-sabotaging? Like, how are you identifying that?
Um, Mostly I think for me it's more intuitive. So if I'm looking at cards, typically, so say if a person comes to me and it's about career,
Sure.
if I'm not so in the cards, the sign of or the suit of pentacles represents career, finances, like things that we value, our resources.
Sure.
Um, if I'm not, if you're like, I really need to know what to do about my career, and I don't see a lot of pentacles in the spread or on the table, I'm like, career is not what you should be focusing on right now.
Love it.
You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Because people are like, no, it's this thing over here that needs to change. When in reality, it's something completely different. Right. So if I'm looking, I had a client come to me, he's like, what do I need to do about my career? And I saw like maybe one pentacles on the car on the table. And I was like, I don't think career is the issue right now. I think it's more about your growth and maybe your current relationship or just emotional fulfillment,
Mm, love it.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Because, like you said, it's just kind of gaining that clarity because one idea can lead to a snowball effect of
Yes.
change.
Mm-hmm. Love
So,
it.
what we think is our career, an issue at work, it really might be something within our house.
Yep.
You
Agreed.
know what I mean? Or it could be unmet expectations,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yep.
So, what in the cards, the two biggest indicators that people are resisting some sort of change are when you see death in reverse and
Sure.
when you see the tower in reverse.
Sure.
it typically means that the initiation for change has already occurred, but you're not moving forward. Like there, and it also judgment in reverse
Yeah.
can be that there's this real hesitancy to surrender to the unknown. Um, and so, and again, it would all depend on, it's not just one specific indicator, it's a variety. Like you have to look at the spread as the whole, you have to look at the cards as a whole. What
Yeah.
are they telling me? And
Yes.
then I'm like, okay, well, I'm seeing this, I'm seeing this, and I'm seeing this. And I offer two services where clients who are busy and I do pre-recorded readings.
Nice.
Those are a little, I don't mind doing those. I enjoy doing those. And I started out doing those because I was afraid to be on camera with others. But it's harder to get that feedback.
Sure.
So I never really knew if my readings were landing. Sometimes you get feedback from clients like, yes, this is on point. Thank you so much. And then they come with follow-up questions. And I love follow-up questions.
Hmm.
Or then you wouldn't hear from them at all. And I'm like, did
Hope,
this
right. Hope you
land?
got
I
something out
don't
of it.
know. I don't know. But then if they booked again in 2 months, I was like, okay, well, clearly it was okay. Um, but I did have one client who a while she had booked a couple of relationship readings, like kind of sporadically throughout the span of like maybe a year. And the theme that kept coming up for her was a struggle to communicate.
Mm,
I don't know what's going on with this person. Can you help me? Does this person feel this way? Can you help me? Did you ask?
exactly. Exactly. You're asking a tarot reader.
Like,
You're not asking the person themselves. How, like,
yeah, you know what I mean? And again,
yeah,
that goes back to fear. Like,
fear.
I'm afraid if I ask, it's they're going to reject me, or I'm afraid of this, or whatever the case may be for that individual. But finally, the last reading I did, I was like, look, the communication on your part is what keeps coming up. I don't think this is going to change for you, no matter who else comes in, no matter who else you entertain, unless you get comfortable with stating what you're wanting,
Hmm.
stating what your expectations are,
Hmm.
what you're willing to give,
Love it.
and what your boundaries are.
Love it. Was she able
Like
to
if you're
receive
not
all
able
that?
to communicate those things,
Hmm. And was she
you're
able to
not going to
receive
know.
it?
You're always going to wonder
Yeah.
whether or not where this person stands. And it can be as simple as just asking them.
Because again, they need to communicate with that person, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what was the follow-up? Like, did she book you
She
again? Did you
she
get
sent me
feedback? Did she do
she
some?
sent me a thank you. She was like, you know what, you're absolutely right. You know, but she never booked again.
So again, and my mentor, my astrology mentor, he told me that most people are going to book when they're at a crossroads with either their relationship or career, right? Which is
Mm-hmm.
common, right? That's fair. Because a lot of times there's something people want to level up or change a pattern and things like that. So I totally get it. And again, not dissimilar to what you're doing. We're looking at the chart. We're looking at the entire chart. We're, looking at the placements and patterns, and that's what we're looking for. I always say that a birth chart is like a SWOT analysis, right? So you're looking for those opportunities, but you're also looking at those threats. Like, how are you self-sabotaging? Right.
Yep.
So it's not that much different, right? And
Mm-hmm.
people, again, if you're willing to take that first step and say, hey, again, whether you're working with a coach, an astrologer, an intuitive, a tarot reader, whatever, it's you saying, hey, I'm recognizing there's a pattern and I'm looking for the tools to get beyond this pattern. So it sounds like your tool was effective, right? So she had gone through enough readings and said like, hey, this is me and my communication, like whether she was able to further those skills and things like that, but again, we're here to open the door, not to, give
Yeah.
everything. Like as they say, when the student's ready, the teacher appears. So now you've opened that door, which I love that. So all right, so I'll go ahead and wrap it up, and I want to share all your social media too, but I just want to ask you, like when you come across people, and just for the general, um, what are your two pieces of advice for creatives and seekers? Like you were a seeker at one point. I was too. Like, what are your two pieces of advice if you could summarize for anybody who's on that journey to either, stop self-sabotaging, break patterns, things like that?
Oh man. Um, for me, because even right now, I'm kind of like, and here's the thing, like people need to understand, you can make it through one barrier, you can overcome one obstacle. And as if you continue down this journey, you're gonna come across another.
Of
And
course.
it may be the exact same obstacle, but the issue might be a little bit more nuanced than it was before, or the issue might be a little more emotionally driven versus psychologically driven, right? So even though you're like, I already did this. Why am I experiencing again?
Mm-hmm.
We're human. This is life. Life is hard. And we encounter very similar things. And when you're looking at the metaphysics of it, it's kind of like that's the universe like testing you. How bad, like, are you willing to take this next step? Or are you going to go back to
Mm-hmm.
your old ways of being, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's one thing I want people to understand, to always give yourself grace, right?
Mm-hmm.
It takes time and it takes energy and it takes effort to really reach that next level. But ask yourself why. Why am I doing this? Why, or you could say what? Why am I doing this? Why am I hesitant to have this conversation? Why am I afraid to
Mm-hmm.
apply for that job?
Mm-hmm.
Why am I afraid to talk to my parent about something that's very, very challenging for me,
Sure.
right? Like, why am I afraid to open up? Ask yourself why. And you can also ask yourself what. You know what I mean? Kind of like what you said, like getting clarity about something. What do I want out of this? What do I want out
Mm-hmm.
of this conversation? What am I wanting? What do I want to experience in my career?
Sure.
Right? Because I think a lot of us really, a lot of our self sabotaging tendencies can come from some sort of emotional or psychological
Sure.
barrier.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can ask yourself and be brutally honest with yourself, you have to be
Agreed.
honest with yourself,
Agreed.
period. If you're not going to be honest with yourself, you're going to find yourself in the exact same position you are in, whether that's 3 months or 6 months down the road. You're going to be back here again.
I saw a quote yesterday that said, therapy only works if you don't lie to your therapist.
True.
I was laughing. I'm a Sagittarius, so you already know how we feel about telling the truth. Like again, but you have to be honest with yourself. Are you really being honest? And I'll never forget, I saw a coach say a lot of us aren't afraid of following our passions. We're afraid of being seen, right?
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of us are afraid of being seen because this is my thing and I love it. And, I could be crushed, whatever, but we're not doing it for that. We're doing it for our own growth. Like I always say, I'm that spiritual person. The earth is a school and we're all here for our own soul's growth. Do you need to
Mm-hmm.
be doing inner work 24/7? Absolutely not. No. There's going to be ebbs and flows. Most of your day is going to be neutral. We're just going about life. But there's
Yep.
going to be times that you're going to want to go to the next level and do that next thing, right? But not everything, but I'm more of the playful spiritual path vibe. Like you should be having some fun. If it's all doom and gloom and shadow work, like you have to have healthy, it can't all be what am I doing? How am I self-sabotaging? Because
Yeah.
sometimes you won't understand it until months or years later that you sabotaged yourself. And or
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it was your own intuition that was saving you from something you
Yep.
thought you wanted to manifest didn't work out. And then you go back and look and you're like, whoa, I dodged a bullet. Whether it was a job, a relationship, or whatever. So I think, again, a lot of self sabotage comes down to just self awareness, self reflection. I know you're a big fan of meditation, journaling, all of those
Hmm.
tools and resources that we have. But thank you so much. I appreciate it, Jamie. I want you to share with everybody how they can get in contact with you, Instagram, website, all that kind of stuff. So if people want to work with you and book you, how do they work with you?
You can find me on social media at what is it? Instagram, Threads, and TikTok are all at the username That Girl Jamie.
Okay.
So you can find me there. And then my website is www.sovereignlightcoaching.online.
And I'll drop those links in the video too. So they'll be
Perfect.
there too.
But yeah, booking services will only happen through my website, so you'll have to go there. But if you just want to interact with me, check out my vibe, because not every reader coach is the right fit for you.
Yes.
So don't expect, that I come to this person and they're going to be the one. They might not be the right fit for you. So if you're just interested, check out my social media, check out my vibe. And, if you're interested more, you can read. I have blogs. I have a weekly newsletter that people can subscribe to where I provide like weekly astrological updates, tarot updates, and how to work with those energies in a very real, practical way. So yeah, check it all out.
Awesome. Love it. All right, everybody. Thank you. Again, thank you for joining us today. You guys know you can follow all of our social media. It's at the Beatnik Soul. And as always, follow your inner voice, stay curious, stay cosmic, and until next time.